Even with the pandemic greatly subsiding in many places, the global workforce has changed significantly and perhaps permanently, with many people shifting to working from home, especially with metaverse technology being around the corner. And alongside that, there's also greater flexibility and variety for gig economy workers who work through even online platforms like Fiverr and Upwork, and also in new upcoming trends like cryptocurrency, blockchain, NFTs, and the metaverse. So in today's video, we're going to be checking out the popular freelancing website Fiverr and how one can make money on it with some of these up and coming gigs and these new trends that are not yet very competitive, and yet one can really pretty easily get into with completely free tools that come with free tutorials as well. So first up, one of the most important things to know if you're trying to sell on Fiverr and make money is to sort of know where the demand is and where people are actually clicking on the website. And there are several ways to do this, and there's actually one specific trick to the first niche we're going to cover, which is NFTs. And I'm actually going to cover some other niches as well, such as the metaverse, so stay tuned for that. But first up, if we actually go over to the Fiverr website, the very first and most straightforward way to find out perhaps where the demand is to look at these categories. And there are also gigs and even sort of other categories that are not necessarily listed on these menus. But this is sort of the first avenue, so to speak, where people could actually, for example, they want to look for graphics and design, they would actually hover over this menu and then look for a specific thing that's, suits their, whatever they need, right? And one trick you can do is to look for some of the newer categories that pop up. Here we have font and typography and then design advice. None of these are related to today's niches, but if we actually hover over to on the lifestyle part, are actually trending. Oh, there's actually a new trending tab, and I hadn't seen this before. If we go over to the top right, you'll see that there's NFT art, NFT services, NFT development, and NFT promotion checklist. So these are some of the ways that, or some of the links that people will go through if they're looking for NFT related gigs. And this is thus keywords and types of gigs that you can perhaps target as well, right? But speaking of which, another way to do so is to sort of target Fiverr as a search engine, because not only do people use these categories by just clicking on them, right? But you'll find that a lot of sellers actually try to target these keywords, especially if they're sort of more established keywords and they're not labeled as new. And that means there could be a lot of competition as well, right? So if you're first starting out on Fiverr, and by the way, you can list up to 7 gigs to sort of maximize your chances. But personally, my advice for new sellers on Fiverr would be to sort of target more specific keywords, which is not to say that you can't perhaps target some of these trending like NFT art, NFT services, types of keywords. But perhaps in addition to that, maybe you want to niche down a little bit more for people who want to use the search bar instead on Fiverr to find things that might be more specific, right? Such as NFT music, if you're into that, or a specific type of NFT art, or a specific type of NFT service. And now let's actually dive into some of these specific things that, and pretty easy types of gigs that people can do. And with that, let's get into the NFT Promotion One-on-One Checklist, which is actually directly featured on Fiverr and is another place that users looking for NFT related services will actually go to find gigs, and thus where you should target your gigs for potentially, right? Especially since this is an up and coming trend. And so you can actually look for keywords that are related to these specific gigs that are listed here. And by the way, the way to access this is to go over to the trending tab again and actually click on NFT Promotion Checklist. All right, so again, this is where users will actually go through to click into to look for gigs, and thus why I recommend people to perhaps target these as well, right? At least for part of your keywords. Maybe you can be a bit more specific as well, right? But first, we actually look through all of these. So these are basically the steps for promoting and setting up NFTs, starting with building a community. Let's say a client wants to set up an NFT for their own, brand or whatever, or a piece of artwork. Then they would need some type of promotion and setting up a community, right? Like usually people have Discord communities, Twitter, perhaps Telegram, or even like Instagram, or a mixture or combination of all these social media platforms. And thus it would be great for you if you want to provide these types of services for NFT, creators, like social media strategy and things like that, right? If we look at the first one here, these are all links, by the way. We have community strategy and setup. And if we actually click into this, we'll find that a lot of these are Discord server setups. So using Discord as an example, and by the way, this is not limited to Discord because again, platforms like Twitter, also Instagram can work really well as well, and also Telegram. So you might want to provide all of these packaged into your 1 gig, right? Perhaps. So even though I said you can only offer 7 gigs as a beginner seller on Fiverr, for 1 gig, you can also offer different specifications, right? So for instance, even for one community setup gig, you can have Discord plus Twitter plus Telegram plus Instagram, for example, and charge a bit more, and also perhaps make your gig more enticing than some of the ones that are offering, say, only Discord, right? Because you're offering a package and delivering more value for people's money. So speaking of money, you definitely want to look at how much people are charging for just like Discord setup. And it really is quite a lot for some of these gigs. Like for this first one, which is over 200 reviews, this person's charging just to set up a new or existing Discord server for one's NFT project. They start charging almost $400 and more, right? This is starting at. But this person is probably more established as a seller, so you might not be able to compete, directly with him or her. But if we just look at the number of gigs, it's only 12 so far, so the competition is not really there that much yet, right? This is very much a new sort of niche on Fiverr that people can still, there's still a lot of opportunity for sellers, in my opinion, especially with all this demand for NFTs, right? Even though we're sort of in a lull right now, but I fully believe that this could actually continue at least somewhat, right? Or even increase in popularity later on. But if you look at some of the other prices, there's also people charging like $25, $15 for some of these gigs. The cheaper ones, like the $15 one, are probably just more bare bones setup, just maybe creating a Discord server. Whereas the ones that are charging hundreds probably include things like Discord bots, right? We have like automated responses, channel management, and you can even do you can even become a moderator for a Discord channel as well, right? But Discord, by the way, is a completely free software. It's sort of another type of social media platform that isn't necessarily, it's more popular amongst like younger people, like the younger generation, and it's commonly used for gaming. But nowadays, it's really branched out to different types of communities, especially for young people, right? So NFTs is a trend and a niche that a lot of young people are involved in, and hence the popularity of Discord for hosting NFT communities. But if you're going to create a Discord account or a channel rather, and learn how to use Discord, you can definitely just download the software completely for free, right? There's a ton of free tutorials right online, Google, YouTube, for how to set up Discord. And even if you don't use a tutorial and just try to experiment with it, or maybe do a combination, right? It's quite straightforward to set up, in my opinion. I've done so before. My friends have done it. We have our own Discord groups, right? People can create automated bots pretty easily to reply to comments and things like that, and for like Q&A quite easily on Discord. So all this is relatively easy work, in my opinion, for the amount that one can charge for this type of service. Moving on, next, right on this same checklist, we also have community management. So I sort of touched on this before, which is basically managing Discord communities and other social media platforms, such as Telegram, becoming, say, a moderator for it. So this is definitely 1 gig that is related to, setting up a platform as a community. That one can also do sort of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak, right? By offering an additional gig on Fiverr and just getting additional chances for people to, purchase one of your gigs on the platform. And in addition to that, if I scroll down, this is kind of similar as well, but if we expand to different types of social media, we can do social media marketing and advertising. So you can actually learn things like Instagram growth strategies, or help people run Instagram pages, Facebook pages. Facebook pages are probably not as prevalent nowadays, but Twitter is definitely quite a big one, especially for NFTs. And you can also learn things like running ads perhaps on social media and whatnot, right? And especially for things like ads, people do charge quite a bit, especially if you're able to learn how to do ad campaigns. And all these popular social media platforms basically, and search engines, will have free tutorials right on their websites for you to learn from, right? And it'll basically hold your hand through step by step how exactly to set up, say, an ad campaign. So that's something that you can definitely consider as well. And next up on this checklist, we also have display advertising, which is essentially ads that are on, say, Google Display or like Reddit, I think, right? Reddit ads. But if we just look at, again, This category specifically for NFTs, there's only 7 gigs on this right now, right? So there's definitely a lot of opportunity in my opinion, and not that much competition as of yet, right? Especially in this specific category that again people will be clicking through into just from this featured page. If they're looking for any type of NFT services. And in addition to that, we also have research type gigs. So we have this one called slots research, and then also research and strategy. So first, if we look at slots research, this is essentially a lot of doing a lot of market research for NFTs, basically creating reports for what types of trends there are. You can even use things like Google Trends, right, to help you with that, and also identifying what types of patterns. Or sort of the meta, so to speak, for NFTs, right? And one cool way you can do so is to use websites like Rarity.tools. There are other websites like this as well to sort of figure out what's popular by just clicking into each project and perhaps checking out, how big the community in each one is, and then just looking at the art style and the sort of sub niches that are within each, basically each month or each week for NFTs. And the next category we have here is called research and strategy, which currently only has 14 gigs right now. And what this looks like, this category entails basically reaching out to influencers on social media platforms like, again, Twitter and Instagram to see who would be willing to promote one's NFT, right? Basically explaining to them what the project is, and seeing how much they're willing to get paid, or how much they're charging rather for this promotion, right? And basically all you have to do is collect the information for your client and basically, charge a little bit for that information, right? And for finding all these influencers for them. And now, this right now does look like a gig that doesn't have a lot of competition, but once people, if they catch on, this could also become, because it seems so easy, a gig that could actually become more competitive, right? So that's something to keep in mind. But another thing is that if you have sort of first movers advantage to a certain market or marketplace, if say you have your gig that is already getting reviews, this will actually put you way ahead of new people trying to get in who have yet to have any reviews, right? Because people tend to gravitate towards the gigs that already have reviews. So that's another thing about Fiverr to also keep in mind, and especially works for say newer gigs that people are trying to get into, and newer trends, right? Such as again NFTs and metaverse stuff and stuff that I'll get into a bit later. But anyhow, looking at the next set of gigs, we have public relations. This is sort of self-explanatory, but one that I wouldn't necessarily recommend as much because it's a bit more complicated. It's sort of like being your PR representative. You have to talk to people for them. You're basically like being hired by them to talk to people, basically set up promotions for them, do like press release stuff. So this is a bit more technical perhaps, but because of that, you'll see that people are also charging a lot more, right, on average for these. Some of these verified sellers are charging hundreds up to like thousands of dollars for this type of service, so that's pretty crazy. But again, some of these might not just be for NFTs, right? Their press releases are for like brands and products and things like that, which perhaps is something that you might want to get into as well, right? Even if it's not necessarily like NFT related. Anyhow, if we look at the next one, we have marketing plans. So this is sort of like creating plans for people. So basically designing strategies for people. I've actually done this before for like YouTube consulting on Fiverr as well. I don't currently do that anymore because I sell, I do like courses and stuff. But anyhow, this is actually a fairly lucrative way to make some money and creative way to make some money on Fiverr if you have expertise and can consult people on certain things, right? In this case, NFTs, if you sort of know, how to launch an NFT, you can perhaps provide consulting. And what I used to do is just type of notes, look at what the client needs, communicate with them right on Fiverr, right? And then you can create, say, like a Google document right online, type up like a plan for them, like a blueprint for them, and give them suggestions. And maybe if they have other questions, you can answer the questions. And that's sort of what you'll just have to do, right? You do need to have a bit more know-how and be able to provide specific advice to specific customers who might have different needs, right? So just be sure to actually have that knowledge before you attempt this type of thing, right? And the same thing applies to consultations. So this is extremely similar, right? They just have sort of different names. So this is basically what I just described, a bit more advanced, but also because of the more technical nature of it, people can actually charge more for it as well, right? And also clients are generally willing to pay more for it, depending on the type of obviously budget they have, but also the scale and scope of their projects. So that was all for this specific NFT checklist, but there are definitely other NFT related gigs that you can try out on Fiverr. Again, because you can list up to 7 gigs, right? On Fiverr, even as a new seller, and actually more if you level up, actually make some sales and level up. But one example of this is, well, first of all, I want to mention actually creating the NFT artwork or whatever assets like music, different types of, images and whatnot, digital files. If you are, that type of creator or artist. But there's another type of NFT gig and service that is actually, albeit a bit popular right now, but it doesn't involve any sort of artistic know-how, which is generating NFTs, and specifically the collections, which is basically having these different art assets that can be provided to you from your client, basically different accessories for a certain character, for example, for that collection, that you can, each of the accessories, by the way, will be its own like image file, right? And then you can basically take all these files and then use an automated software. Now you don't have to actually know any code, because there are not only free softwares that you can use for this, but also basically the customizations you can also download right online and just use that, right? And there are tutorials for this online on YouTube, including on my channel. I'll link my video down below. But there are definitely other very helpful, perhaps more advanced tutorials as well if you would like to learn more about this. But essentially, you can basically use these softwares to generate, automate generating as long as the assets are provided for you, and it's not that hard to generate hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of NFTs for each client's collection. So this is definitely something to consider as well. All right, next up, I also want to cover another hot trend, the metaverse and related gigs, all of which I also have individual video tutorials for right on my YouTube channel that you can check out as well, and that I also link in the description box of this video. So with that, let's actually hop on back to Fiverr to check out what some of these gigs are. And this is just sort of general keywords that I'm looking at, but you can definitely, instead of say focusing on the metaverse keyword, of which there are thousands of services available because it's such a broad keyword, you can actually focus on the specific types of projects, like the file type, the types of software that is involved, and I'll get into those free and mainstream ones in just a bit. But again, file types as well as software names of whatever purpose the project is for. These are specific types of keywords that you can look at. Again, especially as a newer Fiverr seller, you want to focus on really specific niches to be able to rank higher on those less competitive niches first before you start building your reputation into more and list, gigs in more sort of competitive keywords and niches. But anyhow, one such example for metaverse type gigs is if you want to create any sort of metaverse assets, like 3D assets. This does sound kind of artsy, and it is, but there are a lot of free software with step-by-step tutorials that you can use to basically create specific types of assets within each software as well, which doesn't necessarily mean you have to be an artist, right? If you already know the steps and you can focus on especially creating specific types of things, like say buildings or virtual furniture or even characters, right? If you just focus on one thing at a time, you'll be able to really hone your skills on that one thing and become really good, and still be able to have your own niche, right? But anyway, for one example is also Vassal Art. So this is a specific type of metaverse art. This is featured in games like Minecraft, and also other types of games like the Sandbox, which is a fairly popular and sort of trending metaverse game right now. In fact, it's actually in its second season of its alpha, which is about to end in a few days. You can actually go into the game and play it for free and earn raffle tickets to be able to earn some free NFTs and crypto, even have a chance to earn them at least. I've done so myself, so I will also link my video tutorial for that in the description, but I digress. Anyway, for Vassal Art, this is not only a simpler type of artwork because it's sort of blocky characters and assets, right, as you can see, but it's also high in demand, again, for games like Minecraft and Roblox is another one that is very popular. And also the Sandbox, right? And for this, you can use softwares like right on the Sandbox itself. They have free software for creating Sandbox games. Another one called Vox Edit, basically for you to create these voxel type NFTs, right? So NFTs and the metaverse are closely related, right? This is all free, by the way, these softwares, and there are tutorials right on the Sandbox website and YouTube channel, and right on the software as well, I believe. It actually links you to these specific tutorials, and I also have my own tutorials on my channel. Again, links down below. Another software that you can consider is Megavoxels. This is slightly more customizable, I suppose, and perhaps more advanced than the Sandbox creator, but Megavoxels is another mainstream, very popular free software for creating these types of blocky voxel artwork, right? So definitely very cool stuff. And if we're just talking more broadly about the metaverse, mainstream software that you can learn for free right on their websites, and in some cases even get licensed for it, right? You can actually pass a test on their website, get a certificate, which you can also show off on Fiverr or other freelancing websites, or directly to a potential employer to actually boost your credibility and, you know, basically have people be more likely to hire you and use your services. The first one is Epic Games. They have their own Unreal Engine. So if I click on the Unreal Engine link on the top here, it's also their own free software. You can download it to create things like games, but it's not limited to games. There's film, TV, architecture, etc., etc. Lots of uses for it, basically 3D assets of all sorts. They also have a marketplace of their own, so you not only can provide related services on, say, Fiverr and other websites, but you can also list assets and sell your own assets on their marketplace, which is really cool. And another similar software and sort of a rival to Unreal Engine is Unity, which is actually used to also create lots of mainstream games right now. But in addition to that, you can definitely use it for other purposes, right? And they also have their own, you know, free resources and tutorials, and you can even get licensed as well and well certified. So here we click on the learning tab here. We can actually scroll down and you can just literally click on start learning to look at specific tutorials that you want, student plans for free Unity license that you can study for, and then finally get certified, basically having actual credentials that you can show off to people, right? And lastly, we also have another software here. It's called NVIDIA Omniverse. They also have their free training. This is a bit more technical and advanced. It's less used for creating games, but more for practical Omniverse. This is what NVIDIA calls their own metaverse, but it's basically imitating a lot of real life, you know, physics and situations and product prototyping with basically a virtual, like, metaverse type space, right? And there's also a free software that they provide, along with, again, free tutorials that you can use to develop these types of assets as well. And that's pretty much all I want to show you guys in today's video. Let me know which types of gigs you'd be the most interested in doing, or maybe some that I've missed, and you can just comment that down below. Plus, you can check out my YouTube courses, one of which is completely free on my website. The other one has a coupon code that is expiring. All the information will be in the description box below. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.